Okay, hi everyone, here we go. I wanted to create a video for you to get you started on Essay 1, our narrative. And I've been fiddling about here for the last hour trying to get all my pieces in place. So I hope everything looks good and I hope you can kind of see where we're headed. In a regular class, of course, I would be putting all of this up on a whiteboard. And although I do know that the technology for a whiteboard exists online, I just have not mastered it yet. So this is my little impromptu whiteboard and it seems to work. So thanks for your patience and for allowing me to be pretty low tech here. But I think the information you need will be conveyed pretty clearly. So let's start here, okay? So we've got Essay 1, all right? I do like to write while I talk. It's just how I am. And hopefully, please feel free to take notes. Obviously, you're at home. You can do whatever you want. But I would highly recommend actually taking some notes. I might say some things in this video that I haven't said yet, or I haven't said in a certain way, and then it all suddenly clicks. So anyway, let's just get going here, all right? I'm saying that to myself. Let's get a move on. So, Essay 1, you're writing a narrative. I want to take just a couple of minutes here to sort of put us back into the context of where we've been, right? We've started with knowing yourself and how absolutely important that is. Listen, everyone, this is not woo-woo. This is not tree-huggy. We all need to just feel good about ourselves and then everything's going to be okay. I hope you can see from the materials that I gave you, and there is so much more out there that I would invite you to look into, that this is just one of those essential things of life, that the better you are here, the better you will be everywhere else. And please believe me when I say that essay writing, which is nothing more, what have we been talking about? This is putting your ideas and your thoughts, your opinions, your commentary, your experiences. Essay writing is simply putting all of that together into one document. And of course, the easy part, is writing and sort of transmitting those thoughts through our hands and getting everything right and clear, right? So I'm not going to let myself go there because we're going to talk about that in a second. But, you know, this idea of knowing yourself is absolutely crucial, and I hope you take it really seriously and enjoy it. Anyway, okay, so knowing yourself, and then we stepped into some creativity stuff because I'm just trying to sell you on this idea that you and all of the sparkly, wonderful, sarcastic, even cynical, funny, all of those things that make you you belong. You've got to hear me in your writing. Okay? I don't care what anybody says. And if you've come across a professor or an instructor who tries to tell you something different, then drop that class if you can. Okay, so creativity, knowing yourself, we're moving through there. And then the module right before this one, we kind of start to step into some of those mechanical, we're not quite there yet, but more of the expected elements of academic writing. Okay, and of course, that's where we are. So there's no expectation here that you're going to throw that away, but it's where does it sit in terms of priority? Where does it sit in terms of what makes something good and compelling, interesting? All of the things that you like about other people's writing, we are eager to like about yours. Okay, so I'm not saying that to put pressure on you. I'm saying that to free you. That when you really buy into this idea that you do have something to say, you do have experiences that are worth sharing, you do have ideas and thoughts that are worth the time to develop and evolve through the process of writing, then this whole thing becomes better. Okay, and I realize you can't see all of that. So you spent a little time in the lecture Writing in College, which actually is a really good one. I like it. I stole everything in it, or borrowed, or whatever the correct academic term is. And there's some really good ideas and thoughts in there to help you frame your writing and kind of get to that place to what is it, and then how do I get there? And then subject, audience, and purpose. Okay, so tonight I promise you, it's tonight for me. I will be blending all of this. Okay, if you like to take notes, I'm going to talk a little bit about writing narrative and how narrative is different than other kinds of writing, just a little bit, what its goals are, what it looks like, what it does. I will move into another portion where I talk about the 4 keys of writing good narrative. And then we'll kind of blend and synthesize all of this with those things you learned in the writing in college lecture and the subject, audience, and purpose. Okay, so I've already been going for about 6 minutes. I hope that you're speeding up the speed on this so that you're not getting despairing that we aren't moving on, and we are. So here we go. It's my little introduction. All right, writing a narrative essay. Okay, so if you're taking notes, divide your paper up. We've got narrative on one side and what it is, and as for another type of writing you will do in college, you'll do a lot of different types, but the most common, I would say, is expository, which is basically just informational type writing. Of course, there's argument, persuasion, compare and contrast, all of that. But I want you to get a feel for narrative in how it's different than something like expository writing, okay? So let's be very clear about this, that narrative writing tells a story. Okay, this is key. You need to hear me. This essay is about telling some kind of a personal story about your life that has some significance, okay? And that it all just kind of ties in conceptually to this who are you theme that we've been working on. Now, the challenge of something like this, what makes it academic and what makes it really an intellectual exercise, is that it is up to you to sort of form this story, okay, around details and around creating an experience for your reader. That's what narrative does. Narrative answers the question, what happened? Tell me the story, okay? What happened? Expository writing answers the question, what does it mean? What does this mean? Okay. So, expository writing is really about explaining something. So sometimes the way I think about it is, if I'm explaining something, I'm kind of outside the subject. I'm pointing to things, I'm providing some kind of commentary. My goal, okay, so I'm going to put goal here in the middle. The goal of expository writing is so that the reader, or whatever you're doing, can understand, can comprehend, okay? The goal of narrative writing is immersion. You want your reader to be immersed in that experience and essentially to feel what you feel. Okay? It's almost, you can think in terms of a movie, if that helps. Over here, to keep that sort of comparison going, expository writing might be more like a documentary. Okay? So in a movie, we kind of watch a sequence of events unfold. Okay. We meet people. Whoops, what happened there? We meet people. You can see that, all right? You can figure that out. We meet people. We're introduced to people who are important to the development of that story. And then we kind of experience specific selected moments, okay? documentary. I mean, I think you, in some ways, it's similar, but again, we're kind of back to this idea that I'm trying to explain something. All right. So, narrative. Okay. Your job, part of the job of narrative, is that you use description. Okay, so that the reader can see, feel, hear, right? Everything that you want that reader to feel. Okay. One of the lectures in the module for this particular assignment is, I forget the title all the way, you guys, but it's making your writing vivid, okay? Making it come alive. So that's what narrative does, okay? All right, so I'm going to move on to my next sort of moment here, and this is kind of the real heart of what we're doing here. So 4 keys to writing good narrative, writing how that kind of connects and works with and synthesizes with the writing in college lecture and then the subject, audience, and purpose lecture. So, and mind you, don't forget, all right, that everything in that module, there are several resources in there for you to help give you an idea, a visual, some direction and guidance about how, right, you might go about writing a good essay here. Every time you hear that word good, though, I want you to remember that initial lecture or discussion, I would say, we had, but of course it's online, so there's no real discussion. But keep cueing back to that when I say good, what do we mean by good? What I mean is, yes, all right, this works. This is what I produced. I own it. It's what you know what I mean? You're in the driver's seat. I did this. And on a good day, it might even be something we can say, I'm proud of. It's mine. In the very least, it says what I want it to say, and it does what I want it to do. Okay? So let's talk about the 4 characteristics of good narrative writing. Number 1, this is the biggie. This is number 1. It makes a point. I always use this example. I ask students, hey, do you have anybody in your world who tells stories that have no point? That you're trapped and you're listening and you've got detail after detail and line after line, and you start thinking to yourself, what is the point of this? Right? Why am I listening? Where is this going? That's what good narrative makes absolutely clear. All right. So in this essay, you don't have to work too hard for that. Your essay, if you chose one of the topics that I gave you, you simply will spell out, well, what's my topic? What is essentially significant about that? Your reader will always want to know. Okay. And then if there's anything else after that you want to make sure is sort of captured in that moment. What is the topic? What is significant? So maybe you say, okay, my topic is the best decision I ever made. Okay. And of course, what was it? What was that decision? Maybe it was going back to school. Okay. And why is it significant? Well, maybe for you it was absolutely life-altering. Maybe it was one of those moments where you just said, I've got to choose me. I really want my life to take a different path. So this idea right here, that good narrative makes a point, you don't have to work too hard for it. That's my whole point here. It's really, it should be implied right in that topic that you've chosen. All right, number 2. This will go a little bit faster because it gets a little bit more obvious. Good narrative takes place, here we go, in a specific, okay, setting or context. Hello, what's going on up here? There we go. Setting or context. And you're going to hear this word context quite a bit as we move on to other things that we'll be working on this semester. But there is a specific setting, right? Where is it happening? There is a specific time. When is it happening? There is a specific place. I guess that's kind of redundant, but you get what I'm saying. Even the culture, okay? So it should be really clear to your reader, all of those details. Where is it happening, when, yeah, there you go, all of that. Okay, the third thing, and I will tie this in a moment to some of these other aspects of narrative, but the third element of good narrative is that it relies very heavily. It is built on details. This is key, okay? I am getting a little frustrated with myself that it's taking me so long to get here, because this is the essence of narrative. This is the essence of this assignment, that you are taking the time, you're being patient, and you're really thinking about that whole setting, that whole memory of what is going on. And your job as a narrative writer is to bring that setting alive for your reader's senses, to your reader's senses. Okay? So this is where description comes in. I do have a separate PowerPoint lecture that talks about description, and it's really good. But again, you don't have to overthink this. Sorry, you've got the 5 senses. What do you want your reader to see, hear, smell, taste, feel? There you go. If it's tactile or anything like that. And hopefully, even as we're just going over this right now, you are thinking to yourself, yeah, there's how things feel physically, but then there's a vibe, right? And sometimes, let's say you're talking about this decision to go to school after 10 years or 15 years of being out of school. Is there a literal taste? No. But we become figurative. This is where creativity comes in. And we might say, that it was sweet or whatever, So I just wanted to take an extra moment here and point to where and how the creativity that you already have in your storytelling, because we are all natural storytellers, can sneak in without you even realizing it. Okay, so pardon me. So number 3, it relies heavily on details, and that's your responsibility. And that's really the essence of this assignment, is that it forces you, for lack of a better word, okay, to stop, to slow down. This is what makes writing hard. We all wish, I know, that words would just flow and they'd come, and our pen or hands on the keyboard can hardly keep up with how amazingly fluid everything is coming out, but that is not always the case. So it just takes a certain level of acceptance and discipline that these things are going to come a little bit slowly. It takes patience. And it does take just this willingness, all right, to get all of the pieces of that image together that you're trying to create. All right, last one. Narrative has a purpose. All writing has a purpose, by the way. You don't always have to be explicit about this. You don't have to announce it. But within this whole exercise of narrative writing, you are hoping, you have to ask yourself all the time, I don't like that pen, sorry. What do I want my reader, I'm running out of pen here, to get? What do I want them to feel? What do I want them to know or understand? I'm going to go back to that word from the previous page. Is you are immersing your reader in this memory, in this event or moment. Okay, think of it as an all-inclusive bubble. And what do I want my reader to experience inside that bubble? Okay. All of the best writers do that. This is one of the most exciting things about writing, is that we can take our readers to a place just through our words. So how does all of this, the 4 keys to good narrative writing, how does it blend and synthesize? I'm going to use that word a few times over the course, synthesize, over the course of the next few modules. How do these two things come together? Well, I really want you to hold on to this, everyone. Whatever you think about academic writing, what makes writing essentially good for any reader are these 5 characteristics. Good writing is clear. That's an easy one. Your reader can understand what it is you're trying to do, say, create, develop, whatever it is, right? So your reader can see clearly where you are. Your reader understands clearly what your point is. Your reader can imagine clearly those details that you are giving them, okay? But of course, this always also ties into that sort of grammar, sentence, clarity aspect of writing, okay? Which is, of course, part of writing. Effective, okay? Does it do what you, excuse me, what you want it to do? Is your writing doing what you want it to do? Fully developed, okay? Have you made sure that you've made connections, that you've filled in any gaps, that you've made sure that the story makes sense as you are letting it unfold? Is it full length? Okay, don't forget, please, minimum 4 pages. I'll talk about that later. But this is, many of you already know this, that length requirements are simply part of the writing assignment process. And it's part of the assessment. Are you willing, as I said before, that is really the key to writing, is are you willing to go the distance? And the last one is original. I know we've been talking about this a lot lately. Yes, it does mean not plagiarized, not written by something else. But it also means that it's you. It's your work. It expresses your particular and individual view of the world and the cosmos and all of that. All right. Subject, audience, and purpose. This all ties in. So your subject, of course, is the topic of your narrative. It is the what of your writing. Okay. All writing, by the way, everybody, you've got to realize this is part of everything you write. What is it that you're writing about? Who are you writing to, right? Your audience. So in this case, you've got to ask yourself, what information, what details will my reader need to know to understand what I'm trying to do and purpose? Okay. So when we talk about over here, these details, right, that it relies heavily on details, I want to add some information to this. Details. I'm going to go ahead. Yeah, let's do that. Fancy. Let's talk really quickly. This is in the Vivid Writing. I can't believe I cannot remember the name of that lecture, but it's right there in the module. You'll see it. So the question is, how do we do this? How do we make our writing come alive for our reader so that they can experience and see and feel exactly what it is we want them to see and feel? So one way is facts. Do not shy away from facts, and do not shy away from specific facts. And this goes back to where we are in that little, where we just turned away, is this idea of audience. I always like to use the example of a guy I had in my class several years ago. And I would say to my class, all right, this guy was tall. So in each of our minds, we all imagine what we would think is tall. If you come from a family of shorter people, you might say, well, 6 feet tall is pretty tall because everyone in my family is under 5'6", okay? If you come from a tall family, you might shrug and say, well, tall, 6'7", I guess that's tall, you know? Well, this guy was, I believe he said he was 7'1". And I am telling you, I stand at about 5'5" with my shoes on, okay? I had to look straight up into the sky to talk to this guy. And every time he walked through that door in our classroom, he had to duck his head. So I want you to really appreciate what just happened. It seems normal. The fear that many people have about giving really specific details like that is, I will bore my reader. Listen, details don't bore. Okay? Perhaps too many do. But the details is what makes your reader be able to imagine, visualize exactly what it is you want them to visualize. Okay? So 7'1" is very different than 6 feet. Okay. All right. Fact specific. So measurements, include those. Distances. Time. What time was it? Where were you? Were you in Seaside? Were you in Monterey? Were you in Gilroy? If you say, oh, I was born and raised in the Central Valley, we go, okay, I mean, it's a pretty long valley. So where? You say, oh, well, Turlock. And then, if you know, you know, right? If you know where Turlock is, then you get a whole new pocket of a lot of information in that naming alone. Then if I say, well, I actually was born and raised in a very small, I don't even know if we would call it city, about 15 miles east of Turlock. And now I'm going, holy smokes, you are really out in the rural, agricultural no man's land. Okay, so every bit of information you give your reader gives them a chance to experience what you're saying. Okay, so measurements, distances, time, where are you? When is this happening? If you write about, oh, I graduated high school in 2020, well, guess what I, Jen, immediately say? Oh man, you were the first class to graduate during that horrific COVID time. Then if you say, oh, I graduated in 2021, I get possibly even sadder for you because I say, well, I know that's the group that lost an entire year or more and really never got to experience what it was like to be a senior. I have a younger sister-in-law who had that, and I have seen the effects of that on her life. So my point here is, everybody, and I know this video is going long, and I just pray to God that it uploads into YouTube, because that will really destroy me if all of this gets ruined. My point is, don't shy away, okay? Give your reader everything. Colors. It was blue. Okay, what kind of blue? Sky blue, ocean blue, Hawaii ocean blue, right? Be as specific as you possibly can, and don't shy away. Adjectives, okay? Any kind of descriptors that you can give your reader. And of course, oh my goodness, I almost forgot to say this. Listen, here's the key, and I hope I say this 1,000 times. This is where you get length. Not by repeating meaningless words, and now I'm talking about AI. You don't get length by streaming together all of these dumb words that AI comes up with. You get length out of giving your reader information and details. Okay, don't get me started on that. I've just about had it. All right, so where was I? We were talking about how all of this comes together. In the end, everybody, I want you to remember, this is a story. And why are we using narrative? Why is that the first essay you write in your college class? By the way, it's actually pretty common. But I want to go back to that really quickly, and then we're ending here. I want you to see, number one, this is one of our last chances to kind of keep you in that level of personal writing that is natural. Okay, when we talk about good writing, comes from good thinking, comes from good ideas, the fluency of writing, right? Where it's, I'm going to say, unfragmented, right? Our thoughts are not broken, but they're more seamless. Our personal writing ends up being really, really good for everybody, not just you, because of that fluency. All right? The better you know your subject, the better your writing gets. That's just a little trick. All right? So your your ideas and your thoughts coming together to form words so that other people can experience and hear and understand and catch what you are throwing. All right, this is about a half hour long. I do have a couple of other notes, but I will put those in an announcement or something like that. Thanks for hanging in there. Everybody pray with me that this uploads and I don't have to do this again. All right, bye-bye for now.